Hi there, we're back on 67 Hail Hail. It's that time of the week when I get a little bit of help on the channel with my buddy Euan. Euan, how are you?
I'm not bad. I'm just back from Dubai, as you can tell from the tan. So no, it was good. I trained with the first team, failed the bleep test, and they said they didn't want a specky guy playing. So that was that. But it was worthwhile.
How are the pints?
Oh, very good, very very good. That's how I managed to finagle my way into the training. I just got everyone steaming. So, but I assume there's been I don't think anyone took any photos, so I think we're pretty much in the clear
Nah,
there. Okay.
not seen anything online at all. Yeah, you've been writing about that in 67 Hail Hail. What else has been on the website? Because, this is 67 Hail Hail YouTube. Maybe a lot of the people watching this aren't too familiar with 67hailhail.com. So if they log on now, what kind of stuff can they expect to see?
There's a lot of stuff about the recent transfer speculation, and that's all really good. There's some analysis on how James Forrest affects the tactical approach of Neil Lennon, and yeah, just generally good stuff. Between me and John and David, it's beautiful content.
Yeah, I'm biased, obviously, but I think it's one of the, if not the best Celtic websites out there. And yeah, if you're one of the people watching this video and you're only familiar with my daft face and Jackie McNamara and people like that, we also come in written form. If you don't want to watch videos, log on 67hailhail.com. Log on sounded really granddaddy there, like interweb and all that kind of stuff, but it's 67hailhail.com, and we just have constant articles all day every day about the club we all love. In terms of 67 Hail Hail YouTube, Ewan, folk will be tired of me sitting and doing these videos and saying why you should subscribe to the channel, so I thought I'd get you to do it today. Why should people subscribe to the channel?
It's simply the greatest
Careful.
outlet. I know. I had to be careful there. It's undoubtedly the greatest Celtic content on YouTube. It's prolific. There's at least a few videos a week. It has ex-pros like Jackie Mack. It's beloved by both Celtic and Rangers supporters, seemingly. I've read the comments. It's great. You should, if you're not already subscribed, then do it. What are you waiting for? It costs you nothing.
Exactly what I was going to say. It costs absolutely nothing. We'd really love to get this year off to a good start with some more subs. So if you're watching this video, you've got Ewan, you've got John, you've got David, you've got Jackie McNamara, you've got me, you've got loads of other stuff, really good topics, fresh videos, pretty much every single day. It doesn't cost you a penny. Get involved. Right, Ewan, today's video, we're going to touch on kind of thing we like to do every week with you, and pick out just one article that you've written over the last week or so on 67 Hail Hail, obviously to do with Celtic, an issue that we feel we can expand on a little bit on the YouTube. What have we chosen today?
So we're looking at Celtic's dithering in the transfer market and how frustrating it's getting for Celtic supporters.
This is quite a prevalent topic with regards to myself. I did a video the other day, you probably watched it, where we talking about I think it was 7 centre backs that could be coming to the club. And right at the end, I came up with a plan for me of what Celtic should do. They should move Christopher Ajer on in the summer for 10 million, 12 million, something like that. It's probably a kind of realistic. Maybe people say it is slightly more than he'll go for, but move him on for that. Bring in someone like Omar Colley, who's also in the last year of his contract come next season. Get him maybe for half of what we pay for what we get in for Ajer, and then spend another couple of million on a Ryan Porteous or a Strahinja Pavlovic, or even a Cedric Kipre, a player who could be a top centre back in the coming years. That's the plan I had for Celtic, and you just feel like tearing your hair out because you just know it's never going to be as straightforward as that. We're going to end up with Declan Gallagher coming in short term this month. We're going to end up with Nir Bitton at centre back in a Champions League qualifier in July. Why do you think Celtic don't seem to just do the business nice and early? Why are we always running about with our hair on fire?
To be honest, I don't know, but I would pick up on the comments that Jackie McNamara made. He said that there's a culture of panicking in the summer because players don't know if they're going to be playing Champions League football, and ultimately that's what they're at Celtic for. So, if qualifications are not assured, then players' agents will be sending emails out, getting on the phone to quote unquote bigger clubs who are guaranteed European football or have Premier League status. So it's a constant struggle every year to get a best 11 to play against teams like Ferencváros or Malmo or AIK or whoever, and it's just incredibly frustrating that there's no foresight. But there's so much that goes into a transfer nowadays that, if you worked for the club, you could probably say, well, there's much more to it than just putting a bid in and negotiating a contract. There's so much to it nowadays, especially with agents with image rights and all the rest of it. But it does seem like clubs, other clubs seem to do their business quicker than we do, and I agree they'll probably be Declan Gallagher. Although for the record, I don't actually think that's the worst idea in the world, but I think I'm in a minority opinion there.
Yeah, well, why do we not do the business in January then, and get the players in, bedded in for the next few months, the end of the season, so that they're ready to go for the summer? I think that was the plan with Akun Bio not so long ago. I think it was the plan with Patrick Klimala, probably Ismaila Soro as well. We brought the players in January so they could get up to speed. There was no pressure on them in that first 5 months at the end of the season to make an impact, but the plan was then for the following season. But why do we never seem to do that? Why are we sitting once again knowing that Odsonne Edouard is going to leave in the summer, that he's not going to stick into next season, and why have we not yet got a replacement lined up that's obvious?
In fairness to Nick Hammond, who I assume is the all-knowing, all-seeing eye behind the scenes, we have launched bids already, or at least made inquiries. There's a really promising French striker that you can read about on 67 Hail Hail. Nice little plug. And yeah, but it does seem that Ismaila Soro is a really good example. He came in last January, but it's only almost a full calendar year on that he's actually made an impact at Celtic. So you have to wonder, how disconnected are players coming in January from the style of play that Neil Lennon wants? Because to be honest, from the outside, it doesn't look like it's anything particularly intricate or groundbreaking that Neil Lennon's doing with his players. So I don't really understand, apart from the cultural kind of aspect of players moving in from abroad. I totally understand why they would need 6 months or plus to get integrated in Scottish life, but it's a pandemic and nobody's going outdoors anyway. There's nothing you can do, so you'd be either staying at home in the Slovenian league or you'd be staying at home here. So I don't really know, to be quite honest, but it is a source of complete frustration. We're seeing it now with Alfie Doughty. Doughty
is what I went for.
Doughty, yeah.
I doubt you'll care too much.
But we're seeing that now, and that's letting other clubs swoop in. So, we were linked with Sakiri Dembele, Karamilko's older brother, for months, and now it looks like Rangers, Fulham, a bunch of other clubs are looking for him when we could have sewn that up in the summer. Similar with Doughty. That was
Mark McKenzie.
Mark McKenzie is another one who slipped the net, and again, I would repeat this, that that there's so much that goes into signing a player, especially at the top flight, but it just seems very, very strange to me that Celtic just can't get the job done 9 times out of 10. And then you'll see situations like John McGinn, whose granddad was chairman. He was chairman of Celtic Football Club. There's long established links there, and still we missed out because whether it was playing time, whether it was some other factor, he slipped the net too. And it's questions have to be asked about how aggressive Celtic's recruitment is, because it's just very, very frustrating being linked to player after player after player who could do a job for Celtic and then go on and do that job somewhere else. It's very, very frustrating. Yeah,
now and again, I think in Scottish football, a player at a minor club, or certainly a non-Glasgow club, looks the part, and it's clear they're going to be a star. Stuart Armstrong was that. John McGinn was that. David Turnbull is that. We obviously signed 2 of those players, so we can do it, but the McGinn stuff is really frustrating because fans this season have been proven to be right about virtually everything. It was fans who were saying Soro and Turnbull coming into the team will change things. I know, yes, we lost to Rangers last week, but the performance at Ibrox was so much better than the first game, and a lot of that was down to having Soro and Turnbull in the team rather than Scott Brown or Olivier and Cham. So they were right about that. They've been right about numerous other things this season. And again, the fans it feels so frustrating because we just want to see Celtic, if there's a player there, just pay that premium and get them in. Whenever we seem to spend a good chunk of money on a player, and I'm talking proper figures, they invariably they invariably don't flop. I mean, Odds and Edward cost us £9 million, and we've certainly had £9 million worth of fun out of Odds and Edward. Even if we sold them for free tomorrow, that would obviously be disappointing, but we've had £9 million worth of Odds and Edward. Christopher Julian, I think, for £7 million nowadays, I think that's been good business. I think he's really improved the backline when he's fit.
Definitely, yeah.
Even players like Alfie Doughty, who cost I think about £4 million, have come in and he's been hit or miss, but I'd say he's still been a positive signing in general. He's given us moments over the last few years, not as much so now. So why don't Celtic do this more often? Why don't they look at a player like Omar Colley, who's established, he's like mid-20s, he's playing regularly for a team like Sampdoria, he's out of contract at the end of next season. Why don't we look at him and say, there's your replacement for Christopher Ajer, we're going to spend £6 million on him?
I don't know. For me, the alarm bells ring for me anytime we're linked to a player at another club or other clubs are interested too, because we never seem to win any battles in terms of, you look at the likes of Klimala and Sorrow, and with all due respect to them, especially Sorrow, nobody else was really in for them. Odson Edwards, you could have argued that he might have piqued the interest of a couple of clubs around Europe, but when we got him, nobody else was wanting him.
When he first came on loan, nobody else wanted him. I don't think he was kind of struggling a bit. He'd had the whole air gun thing in France, and he hadn't exactly set things alight at Toulouse on loan. So yeah, it's a fair point.
So I mean,
Ayeti's
Ayeti's a perfect example. David Moyes didn't know who he was, allegedly. That's according to Frank McAvenny, so I'd take that with a pinch of salt, and probably a whole shot tequila. But it's just very, very strange that whenever other clubs seem to be attached to a player that we're interested in, we just can't get it done. And I don't know if that's because the Celtic vision, if you like, has been sold appropriately to prospective targets, or just because the money's not quite right. And either way, that's not good.
What are you expecting to see happen at Celtic in terms of transfers this month?
To be honest, it's hard to say. I think we'll probably sign at least one central defender from the division. I like the sound of Ryan Porteous, but I don't know how legitimate Celtic's interest is there. So Declan Gallagher is probably the guy. It's interesting to see if we land one of the French targets that we're after. I think we're linked to a striker who won the silver ball in the under-17 World Cup of 2019, and has been really highly touted. He's playing at Stade de Rennes now. Again, if you want that name, go on to 67hillhill.com. I'm not going to tell you, but he's valued at about 7-8 million. So it could be one of these very, very weird transfer windows where Celtic go all in and secure some really, really promising talent, or we just rely on the squad that's already there. And I think the problem with the Celtic squad at the moment isn't about transfers, it's about how we've underused players who really deserve a game, and
100%.
We've learned that far too late, so maybe that's the problem.
100%. The strange thing about this current Celtic team, when everyone's fit and it's the first team, and it's a first team who have absolutely failed in the first half of the season. I don't need to go into all the competitions and how we've failed, but the strange thing is, if I looked at that first team, there's not a lot I would change. Keeper, I would probably look to get someone better in, because none of those three have really shown they should be number one. But like the rest of the park, defence is maybe a few question marks, but certainly midfield to attack, I think we've got good players at the club. The problem is that the manager in general this season hasn't been getting the best out of them. So it's a tough one, but I suppose that the bigger question is, what's the team going to look like next season? Because we're going to lose Odson Edward, we're going to lose Christopher Ajer, I think, at some stage. Olivier Cham will certainly be off. I think Ryan Christie's another one who's out of contract the following year. Lee Griffiths is out of contract in 2022 as well. So these are all players who could well move on this summer, so the club gets some sort of a fee for them. So that's the big question, I suppose. How different are Celtic going to look next season? I mean, we could have a new manager in for a start. Well,
there's one name that you missed there that I think's really gone under the radar. Scott Brown's out of contract in the summer.
This summer, yeah.
This summer coming. I think, if I remember correctly, he was linked with that move to, I think it was Western Sydney, and then he signed a year extension on the contract he already had, and that runs out this summer. So it could be a completely different Celtic team next season, and that, with European qualifiers in mind, that's a real worry because, if we're without the likes of Edouard and Ireland, that's already bad enough. But there's nuts and bolts of the squad that could be snatched, for minimal cost of the clubs. There's very consistent links between Ryan Christie and Leicester City. Don't need to remind you who manages Leicester City, but I can definitely see him coming back for a few of our players. Yeah, it could be a real mess, and this summer is definitely. We've had an accidental transitional year, which I'm not terribly thrilled about. But this summer could be very, very interesting for both the club and the supporters.
I can feel a video titled "How Celtic Could Line Up Next Season" on the horizon. Maybe next week that'll be hitting, and we can take a look at how Celtic will be lining up. I'll link the article in the description for this video so people can check it out, and while they're on 67 Hill Wheel can read all of your other great stuff, all of David's stuff, all of John's stuff. Euan, thanks very much for joining me.
No problem.
Thanks for watching, and we're back later this weekend. We've got another good video for you as I take a look at Neil Lennon's legacy as Celtic manager and how it could be left if this season continues not to go to plan. Take care and hail hail.